Fish and chips. They're a staple of the British diet since Dickens wrote about them in 1859. Now, the greater Manchester city of Oldham was the location of the first fish and chip shop, or Chippie as we call them here. Now, most of our audience is probably wondering what the fascination is with such deep-fried food. We wanted to share with you the secrets of creating great fish and chips. Now, we're here on a Friday afternoon in the village of Cowbridge. This is the busiest day for fish and chip sales everywhere. This is largely because in the Anglican and Catholic history, we had a number of people who could not eat meat on Friday. So sales on a Friday are very robust and very busy. We're going to visit today with Lyndon Campbell. He's the proprietor of the Cowbridge Fish Bar, here on the High Street in Cowbridge. It's a South Wales village just to the west of Cardiff. Now, he's ably assisted by Tracey Picton, and together they start at about 11:30 in the morning each day to begin to create up to 100 orders that are going to be consumed on this day.
The first bite of any food is taken with the eye, and before you want to bite the food, you want to make sure that the people who are preparing it for you are clean and tidy, making sure that they care about what they're going to be serving you.
What's the attraction of fish and chips? Why does it do so well? Why is it such a staple?
It's very good quality food. Now, my wife is a very smart cookie, and her mother puts it down to having fed her fish all through her school and university years. She came out with 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's degree. She speaks 5 European languages fluently. There may be something in it that fish is brain food. These are frozen 15-pound slabs. As you can see, this cod was caught aboard the fishing vessel Gadus, and it was frozen at sea. It's all Marine Stewardship certified as being sustainably fished, and we have the Marine Stewardship certification number printed on the box as well. So we open up the box, and here we have basically sides of cod. We get them in already skinned and mainly filleted. We just have a row of pin bones down where the rib cage of the fish was. So these fillets come in. We have chosen an easily manageable size of around about 16 to 32 ounces per fish. So I would say that'll probably make a good large fish just there. That's a nice large fish. We throw it on the scale then just to make sure that I've judged it right, and we don't want people to have less than they should be having, and that is a perfect amount of fish to be put in batter and served. In the fish, it's around about the consistency of a thick single cream. Your fish, Dennis.
All right.
We dip it in a little bit of rice cone sometimes, just to make sure that the surface of the fish is as dry as it can possibly be. Dip it completely in the batter, and just make sure that not too much batter stays on the fish before popping it into the oil. It's your fish. He sank to the bottom for just a couple of moments and then came back up to the surface where he's frying off nicely, and hopefully will turn a beautiful golden brown, just like that one.
Taking them out of the oil, putting them there to drain, so that most of the oil can drain off them before we put them into the range, so they haven't got the oil and the grease on them.
The same thing done with the fish as well?
The same thing is done with the fish and anything that's fried in here.
So then how did you get started?
I've been involved in catering in one form or another for about 25 years, but I always fancied having a fish and chip shop. I've been keeping an eye open for the right one probably for about 10 years. Not with any enormous sense of urgency, but knowing that when I found the right one, that would be what I wanted to do.
So tell me about the fascination with fish and chips. What makes it so wonderful to you?
What's the fascination? I don't think it's a fascination, it's just a nice thing to eat. And it's crispy and tasty and kind of caramelised. But I think the most important thing, I'm not actually from Wales.
Yeah.
I live in Wales now, but I'm from the northwest of England in Manchester. And I think it's even bigger there. It's a bigger thing to have. And the important factor about fish and chips is salt and vinegar. You have to have, in my opinion, lots of salt and vinegar on fish and chips. That's the difference.
It's not fish and chips unless you have salt and vinegar. Tell me a little bit about the vinegar.
Well, the vinegar that we use actually isn't real vinegar. Real vinegar is a brewed thing. It can come from wine or whatever. But what fish and chip shops use is specially developed for fish and chip shops to really complement the flavour of the fish and chips. And it's actually a non-brewed condiment.
And you buy that in concentrated format?
I buy that in concentrated form and then dilute that 16 to 1 with water, and as you see we keep a big barrel of it then so we can keep on refilling as we go.
Yeah.
So, Lyndon, tell me a little bit about the history of newsprint. Why were newspapers first used and not newsprint for wrapping?
Originally, the newspapers that were finished with or hadn't been read would have been given away free of charge because they were unnecessary. And so the fish and chip industry decided, oh right, okay, if we wrap our fish and chips in there, it'll keep it nice and warm and it's not going to cost us anything. So all fish and chips were wrapped in old newspapers, obviously first with a piece of white paper or greaseproof to keep the food nice and clean, but it was a good insulation material. I remember when I went to the fish and chip shops as a child, our fish and chips was wrapped in old newspapers. However, it was then established that the ink used in newsprint is actually poisonous. And so at that point, the fish and chip industry thought, okay, we'd better do something about this, and they have now taken to having the same form of insulation that has not yet been printed on. So we actually buy what we term as white news, which is the newspaper that used to be used on the old broadsheets, but absolutely clean, pristine, and now hygienically and hermetically sealed. Now comes the fish and chips for Dennis. The chips, of course, being the finest chips from the finest potatoes that money can buy. These are Maris Kuipers. Would you like salt and vinegar then?
Oh, absolutely. Got to go through the whole experience with it. So you wrap it first with that small piece of paper?
The greaseproof paper goes over the top to stop the fish from sticking to the newspaper.
And then one or two sheets
per wrap, and usually 2 wraps. Sometimes customers are going a bit further away and they say, can you put an extra wrap on for me, please?
Okay, so here we are. The moment the proof is in the tasting, it's in the pudding, and it's also here wrapped in this package. Now remember, he wrapped it 3 times around. There's just a little bit of grease coming through on the outside. But as I open this already, I can smell the fish and chips coming out towards me. And in order to keep this in relatively one piece, I've got to move it from side to side. And there it is. There's the grease-proof piece of paper. And in other establishments, you'll see that it would actually stick to it, but it doesn't here. And here she is. Now that fish that he was gently preparing before, you can see how nice and moist it is on the inside, and the taste beyond description. And the chips covered in vinegar, also very, very good. So, you find yourself here in the village of Cowbridge, just to the west of Cardiff. You're going to have a great time at the Cowbridge Fish Farm. We've had a great time filming today. Lyndon and Tracey have been absolutely superb hosts. I'm now going to sit here and eat the rest of my lunch. You're watching Worldview with Denis Campbell. Stay right here.